I've been wondering, what is the most important thing an athlete should consider outside of their actual training themselves? Itself. That's what I said. What's up everyone? Matthew Scott here. Welcome to MCR Powerhouse, and I'm going to take you through a couple of things that I personally believe are critical in order to maintain your life in the sport and allow you to perform with as minimal risk of injury as possible. Thing number one, muscle control. If your muscles aren't coordinating the way they're supposed to in order to allow you to perform a movement of a joint, any given joint or any given movement, you are putting yourself at a much larger risk of injury. Allow me to demonstrate. I was talking about coordination of muscles. Well, essentially I'm referring to what's called a force couple. So a force couple can essentially be a group of muscles that coordinate together to allow movement of a joint. I'm going to give you one example here. So there's a muscle that runs up the top here called the upper trapezius. There's a muscle towards the bottom here known as the lower trapezius muscle. And then there's one that comes more towards the side here referred to as the serratus anterior. These three muscles have to contract at a certain force, at certain levels, at certain times and ranges of motion in order for the shoulder to move upwards comfortably and easily and allow the shoulder blade to move properly. Now, if, for example, what's really common is the upper trap muscle is much tighter or working way harder than the lower traps of the serratus muscle, the shoulder blade can move a lot more vigorously than what it's supposed to, and that could jam up the actual shoulder itself, I guess you could say the primary part of the shoulder joint itself, and result in injury. So how do you correct something like this? Well, basically it comes down to getting an assessment of motion and corrective exercises. If you notice that your coach is giving you cues over and over again to tweak something in regards to a movement, and no matter how much you do it, I'd pretty much say up to 2 months. If you're struggling to do something, a certain type of movement after 2 months, then there's probably a good chance that there's maybe something wrong with the actual force couples of your body, or a certain issue with the actual stiffness of the joint, or it could just be purely a mechanics issue that's holding you back. So it may not be that you're just not doing that movement well, but there could be an issue with muscle control. This also affects flexibility quite a bit. So if you're struggling to say, hit a split position, or to move your arm further back when you're trying to catch a snatch of a barbell or something like that, then there's probably a good chance that there might be a lack of muscle control there. Because one of the basic principles of strength and conditioning muscle control is your body will only move in a range that your muscles can control. If your muscle can't control it, your body will not do it. Plain and simple. You could be flexible in the muscles, you could have lax ligaments, but if you don't have good muscle control, your body is going to instinctively try to stop you from doing it. Factor number 2, psychology. This is one of the things that, again, gets overlooked quite a bit. People get large improvements in the early stages of their training and they think, oh, you know, this is going to be a walk in the park. I'm unstoppable. But then what they haven't realized is they haven't developed that mental discipline, which they should do from early stages, that allow them to deal with what they're about to head into. See, with sport, you make big improvements real early because your body's not used to doing it, and you know near your ceiling of potential. Once you start getting closer and closer to that ceiling of potential, say 2-3 years in, you have to work a lot harder to get any sort of improvement as you start to reach that point of your absolute physical peak for any given sport. So it is important that you are able to mentally deal with the fact that you're not going to make as bigger improvements in the later stages of your training career than you would at the earlier stages of your career. And it's going to take a lot more time and a lot more effort to get any sort of improvement. Knowing how to listen to your body. This one is a huge one. This one I have made mistakes with in the past, and take it from someone who did a sport for many, many years, I can assure you, your body does not need to go 100% every single training session. You want to have 100% focus. You want to be there in the moment, and you want to give it everything you've got for the prescribed intensity. Now I know some gyms don't do the prescribed intensity like percentage or 1 rep max. okay, that's fine. You might use it out of 10 scale. Yeah, it just depends on where you are, but I can always guarantee you, almost every coach will say, you're not supposed to go 100% of your 1 rep max for a lift, for example, or sprint full pelt every single session, because if you do that and you don't have lighter sessions to complement it, to allow you to recover and focus and fine tune on some weak points, then you're gonna be doing high intensity all the time and maybe doing it with improper technique, not giving yourself the opportunity to actually improve the technique, and then you'll start, well, developing poor force couples, and you'll start getting tightness in areas that you're not supposed to, or that will affect your ability to perform movements, and then you can potentially end up getting an injury. There is also the factor of overtraining. I know for the most hardcore gym goers, they'll say there's no such thing as overtraining. Well, actually there is, but sometimes people use it as an excuse not to work hard. If you're just not going into the gym because you're like, oh, you know, I couldn't be bothered, or, you know, I just, you know, I don't want to overtrain. No. You have to genuinely have some sort of symptom that you go, okay, you know what, I'm actually feeling quite sore today in the joints. I'm actually struggling to do certain movements. So maybe I'll just go for a light walk, or go for a swim, or just foam roll or something like that. Or maybe if I am going to do the session, lighten up the intensity quite a bit. And then if the pain persists, then go see someone who can help you out with the issue and get to the bottom of the problem. So yes, there is overtraining, but just don't use it as an excuse to not work hard. So there are a few factors that I thought would be quite helpful for people to take into consideration outside of their training themselves. I hope you enjoyed the clip. If you have any comments or any questions, let me know in the comments below. Till next time, keep it strong, keep it simple. Catch you later.